Welcome to eTeacher Pakistan webinar series. eTeacher Pakistan webinar series is an initiative of the eTeacher Plus for Pakistan program that provides professional development opportunities to English language teachers and learners from across Pakistan. These opportunities are provided through global online courses, massive open online courses, webinar series, and then engaging the alumni into many other alumni engagement activities. Some of the alumni engagement activities involve presenting and participating in international and national conferences, presenting at the eTeacher webinar series, becoming mentors in for the GOCs, the global online courses that are offered with different universities in the United States, and being mentors of the eTeacher Pakistan mentorship program. The program is fully funded by the Regional English Language Office at the US Embassy Islamabad. In Pakistan, it is implemented by Evolution. If you wish to stay updated about the eTeacher programming in Pakistan, or if you wish to gain more information about the other programs that Relo Pakistan offers to English language teachers and learners, please follow them on Facebook. And you can also subscribe to their YouTube channel where you can stay updated with these webinars and all the other short educational videos that are posted by Relo Pakistan. In addition to that, if you want to gain more specific information about the eTeacher program in Pakistan, please visit www.evolution.com.pk/eteacher. Today, as a part of eTeacher Pakistan webinar series 2.8, we will be covering the topic transitioning to online assessment. To present on this topic, we have with us today Nazish Kamal, who is currently working at the Beacon House School System as school academic coordinator. She has done her master's in English literature from University of Punjab, Lahore. In addition to that, she has gained multiple diplomas that makes her even a better English language teaching professional. Moreover, she is, of course, the eTeacher alumna and also one of the recipient of the IVLP program that happened in 2019, which gave her an opportunity to present at the TESOL 2019 convention that happened in Atlanta, USA. Apart from that, she was also one of the presenters who presented at the eTeacher Alumni Conference held in 2018 in Islamabad. So in today's webinar, Nazish is going to talk about assessment with a particular focus on online assessment, because no matter, we are going back to face-to-face training, hopefully by the end of this month or in the early weeks of October. However, one cannot disregard the importance of online teaching and learning and how important it is to keep on integrating digital teaching tools to teach the digital kids of today. So without any delay, I'm going to welcome Nazish to begin with the webinar.
Assalamu alaikum. It's me, Nazish Kamal from Wakand, doing a webinar and playing my role for the Relo Pakistan. This unprecedented time of our life has actually not affected our personal life, our social life, but also our professional life. Being an educationist, when you talk about that, the technology has revolutionized all the aspects of life. So education is also adopting to the new trends of online teaching, online learning, and transitioning to online assessment. Because once you talk about the online learning, you cannot compromise on the assessment, which helps and tracks down the performance of students. Let's talk about the transitioning to the online assessment. What is assessment? Assessment is the general term that includes a full range of procedures used to gain information about student learning and the formation of value judgment concerning learning progress. So once you talk about this assessment of this definition of the assessment, the main thing that it captures is actually the students' learning. And once you gain information about the students' learning, to track down, so you can track down the students' online learning progress. It is the way to measure students and learner growth, understanding. So you talk about students' understanding, because once you teach, your prime importance, your prime factor is to make them understand whatever you have set for them. And performance in a course on a particular content standard or across multiple content standards. You cannot talk about one content content standards because it covers all the multiple content standards a student has to undergo. Now, before I move on to my topic, that is transitioning to online assessment, let's watch a very interesting and very satirical comic strip that says, it's about, I taught Stripe how to whistle. I don't hear him whistling. I said, I taught him. I did not say that he learned it. So actually that is a very thought-provoking statements in this comic strip, if you read it, that being an educationist, being a teacher, our job does not end here, that we have to teach them. We have to make them learn something, because the primary goal of teaching is to impart knowledge, but the learning is actually aims at the application of that knowledge, application of that learning. Because if a child is able to apply that learning, then we can say, yes, we have achieved our goal. So our being a teacher, our goal does not end over here, that we need to make them teach, but we need to make them understand and learn that concept. Now, if you talk about the online assessment versus traditional assessment, we can talk about a definition that I have taken from Pauloff and Pratt 2009. It says, despite its popularity, online learning is not without its challenges. As instructors are finding their way in the online environment and paying more attention to good course design and delivery, they are discovering that traditional forms of assessment of student work, such as tests and quizzes that serve them well in the face-to-face classroom, may not work quite as well online. So being a teacher, being an educationist, it's very difficult for all of us to set standards for the online assessment, because when we talk about the online assessment, we need to discuss, we need to have a very thought-provoking process about the strategy, about the content, about the context, about the audience, then the clearly defined objectives and appropriate tools. So once you see the list, it's a very long list. So it's very, very challenging for an educationist or a teacher to work on the online assessment. But after this webinar, inshallah, hopefully, that's not going to be a challenge for you all anymore, because we are going to talk about all these aspects in length. If you look at the weightage of the online assessment and the traditional assessment, you can see that online assessment has more weightage in terms of its challenges, which I have already discussed, in terms of clearly defined strategy, context, content, audience, objectives, and appropriate tools. So it's not an easy task, but it is challenging, but it's not impossible. But with the help of all the information that is clearly laid out in front of us, we can make it possible for the students. If you talk about the examples of the online versus traditional assessment, we can talk about that in traditional, we go for an exams, that a proper traditional paper and pencil exam in a proper environment and an atmosphere, and we can have the quizzes. But the list for the online assessment, the available list is very long, and it does not end over here, which I have mentioned over here right now. It is very long. So if you can talk about the discussions, yes, we can have online discussions, that is a formative way of assessment. Then we can have e-portfolios, which I'm going to talk about in length in my next slides, upcoming slides. But also e-portfolio actually records each and every contribution, achievement, the learning, the application of the knowledge in the electronic form. Then we can have peer assessments. I like this more, because when two peers are on the same level, they assess each other's work and they comment on each other, because in this way they connect, they collaborate, and they share this thing. Then we have self-assessment. When something is in, how we can have self-assessment, we're going to talk about later on. That's actually once you analyze your own performance. Then we can have rubrics, then we have quizzes, we can have collaborative activities, wikis, and blogs. The purpose of the online assessment is actually the purpose of the online assessment. Nothing that we do to or for our students is more important than our assessment of the work and the feedback we give them on it. Yes, I absolutely agree with Reyes, Brown, and Smith when they give us the 500 tips on the assessments, that the prime importance should be given to our students, not to our assessment, because and the feedback that we give them on the work which they have presented. Why? They have talked about the result of our assessment influence our students for the rest of their lives and careers. If you think, if you ponder about this line, this can actually change the whole cultural shift, or the cultural atmosphere of our classrooms, because whatever feedback we give to our students, it does not stay there in the classroom. It goes down to their lives and the careers, and fine if we get it right, but thinkable if we get it wrong. So once you're going to give a right feedback, that is going to make the life of a child. But think about, if the feedback is not right, it's wrong, it's going to break his child. So being a teacher, we are there to make a child or break a child, and that cannot affect when at the present situation, it goes up to their life and the career events. So we need to be very critical, we need to be very rationalized when we have to give the feedback to our students. And once we talk about the features of an online assessment, as I have talked about, that the features, the foremost things there are objectives, what we have set for our students. We have to align the assessment with our objectives. If the assessments are not aligned with the objectives, you know what will happen? The student will be bewildered, they will be confused what to do and how to do. And once the objectives are set for the students, there should be a well-defined criteria and standards. Because if you do not have the criteria to mark them, to assess them, to grade them, and the standards are set for them, we will not be able to give them a very constructive feedback. And it should be authentic and holistic task. The task which is set for the students should be authentic. This should not be imaginary, fictitious task. The students find it very challenging to do that. And it should promote self-direction, because once they have done a task and a feedback is given to them, it should promote self-direction, where to go, how to go, when to go, and why to go. So they have self-direction, self-decisiveness, and they should realize where they are actually improving and where they are actually declining, and they should work on. And there should be sufficient and timely feedback. We will talk about the feedback. We have already discussed that it's very crucial for the student's life, and there should be a balanced tension between the workload and the time. So it should be a balanced one, as compared the ratio of the task and the time should be appropriate, because if the ample time is not given, the students may not able to perform the way you wish to. Before we move on to the online assessment, let's take a quick recap about the formative assessment and the summative assessment. And I'm sure, being an educationist, being a teacher, you all know what is the difference between a formative assessment and the summative assessment. I just took a very interesting example from a Paul Black. He says, when the cook tastes the soup, the formative assessment. That's the formative assessment. Yes, when the cook is in the cooking process, he is in the process to cook soup for his customers. So when he tastes it, so it means that he still has a chance to improve the taste, to improvise it. But when the customer tastes the soup, that's the summative assessment. Now it's in the hand of the customers. Now they have to decide whether it is delicious or whether it is not. So being a teacher, when we take the formative assessment, we still have a chance to improve the practices of the students. But once they go for the summative, then there are certain standards and the criteria they have to meet, and if they do not meet, then afterwards, then the process is the process gets irreversible at that time. So you need to take frequent formative assessments for the students to track down to their progress and make them achieve the goal that you have set for them. Now, assessments, we're going to talk about the assessment, the online assessment, if you think out. And so you can say that there are ample gadgets, ample tools that they are there laid out in front of you. And that's your job, the crucial job to select the right tool for the right job. The use of technology in the assessment, once we talk about the technology, we say that there is a great variety and authenticity in the design of the assessment. Once is talk about e-assessments, so it's very authentic. Why? Because it improved learner engagement. For example, through interactive formative assessment with adaptive feedback. So it has got, as we talked about the formative assessment, the kind of the list is very long, which I have shared already. So there are examples of formative assessment, and if the adaptive feedback is given to them, it will improve students learner engagement. And its choice in the time and the location. Yes, students are easy to choose the time and the location they wish to have this online assessment. It captures of the wider skills and attributes not easily assessed by other means. For example, through simulations. Simulations very important when any object or the concept or the process is not physically, you cannot observe that process physically. Then there are simulations to make you learn that abstract concept into a concrete one. And we have e-portfolios and interactive games. I can give you an example of simulation. Like you cannot actually examine the circulatory system that is going on in your body, but you can watch a simulation, and that makes you help understand that circulatory system. Its efficient summation, marking, moderation, and data storage processes. And once we talk about the online assessment, I must say it's very consistent. It gives you the accurate results with the opportunity to combine human and computer marking. It gives you immediate feedback. It increases opportunities for learners to act on feedback, for example, by reflection in their e-portfolios. And we can have the innovative approaches based around use of creative media and online peer and self-assessment, which I have already discussed. And it's very accurate, timely, and accessible evidence on the effectiveness of curriculum design and delivery. Now, the process of the online assessment, if you talk about the attributes that are attached to the online assessment, it's learner-centered, because it's learner-centered and it develops learners' independent study skills. It encourages self-reflection. That's very important. When it gives you instant adaptive feedback, because it permits the students to assess their progress very well. Really, it's a very crucial time, because as we talk about our own life as a student, we were never given a chance to reflect our practices. But now the students are quite mature enough, because the criteria there in front of them, they can easily encourage self-reflection. And it promotes self and peer assessment. It provides fair, valid, and reliable assessment. And if it gives you a very customized feedback, instant feedback depicting the strength and the weaknesses of the study. And then you can benchmark yourself. Then you can set some certain criteria, certain levels for yourself. And then you have to step by step achieve that the highest level that has been set for you. Online assessment techniques, classroom online assessment techniques were developed by Thomas Angelo and Patricia Cross as mostly simple. Talk about simple. They should be non-graded, anonymous in-class activities that give both teacher and students useful feedback on the teaching learning progress. If you look at this definition, I just take the punchline, that is, it should be very simple, not complicated enough that it complicates the process and students are just bewildered what to do and how to do. It should be non-graded, so it should not be judgmental for the students. Once it's not going to be judgmental, so students can actually feel relaxed and comfortable while attempting to it. And it should be anonymous, because once it's anonymous, the students are going to think that they're going to give their best during their process, during the assessments, because they will think that they will not be judged by their names. So It's a very easy three-step process. A plan, the plan is what you want learner to learn, to gain, and then you have to implement. The purpose of the activity is to, for the students betterment, students learning. You have to implement it. The students will are going to take that, and once you are going to respond, once you are going to evaluate it, you're going to give the feedback, and you have to give a very constructive feedback, and then you can share it with the students. This is the most challenging task I was talking about, the right tool for the right job, because there are hundreds of tools, thousands of tools in front of us that serve the purpose, but we need to select the appropriate tool for the right job. And the steps that we have to take is, we first of all, we have to think about the goals and the needs that we have set for our students. Then we have to clearly lay down the skills that we need to evaluate. Now there comes there must be 4 tools or 5 tools or 10 tools that is actually there in front of you to serve your purpose. But your job being an educationist, being a teacher, comes over here that you have to look at the characteristics of all the tools, and then you have to find out the ideal tool that matches your goals and the needs. And then you have to research the market, and then you have to decide between the top 3 choices, and then you have to prioritize these choices. And once you're going to prioritize, then you can select the top one that serves your purpose. If we talk about my practices and as an educator, that what I'm going through this pandemic, what I have applied and what I have learned. So I'm going to share my practices with you, that I always go for minute papers. That is 2 questions that I always ask at the end of my live session. And I ask them, what was the most important thing you learned during the class, and what important question remains unanswered. So that gives me a clear reflective feedback on my session, and children are there to answer me. So in this way, this is a kind of a very good example of a formative assessment that helps me to analyze and reflect back on my practices and how I can improve upon them. And in online class, I always go for a survey tool or an online polling tool. The muddiest point, that is very interesting activity that students, after the lesson, I always ask them to identify the muddiest point that still confuses in your mind, that is not clear. It can be any after any lecture, after any video, PowerPoint discussion, homework assignment. And we always have a blog discussion board on which I post the question, and students' answers are taken randomly. That is going to give me a very clear picture of my practices. If you talk about the online assessment techniques, we have got the pros and con grid that helps you to look at the 2 sides of the topic. Wiki for a grid of pros and cons, or pluses and minuses around the topic. You can talk about any topic and what are the pros and the cons, and what did you learn, what word you did not learn, and the 1 sentence summary that actually helps me to understand the students' learning progress, the application of their knowledge. This technique challenges students to answer the question, what, does, what, who, whom, when, where, how, and why about a given topic, and then to synthesize their answer into a single informative sentence. This could be required after an assigned reading, but before discussion on a topic. So they can give you 1 sentence summary of your topic. Online class assessment techniques, we have students generated test questions and model answers that helps to assess what the students consider as most important. And we can have potential questions for the test pools. Classroom opinion polls, very important for the bipolar set of opinions in a non-threatening way. You can have anonymous online polls like Zoho polls, Polldaddy, Blackboard surveys that are readily available online, and that gives you the 2 sides without revealing the individual's attitude. So this is a very non-threatening, very non-judgmental environment in which students can they can share easily, express their opinions about a topic. And then we can have an electronic feedback. It's very easy that we can have emails, discussion board, even you can generate a discussion board on a Facebook page. If you have it, blogs, there are many blogs available, and you can create a blog and ask them to comment on that, or feedback and changes could be made course to improve learning. And you remember, right now in the process of the cook who is tasting the food, so you are still in the process to improve your teaching and students learning. And these are the examples which I have already shared with you. Zoho polls, very easy, free of cost. You can use them, create, share, and vote. Poll Daddy, are you thinking what I'm thinking? And the Survey Monkeys are very readily available to have a poll in your classroom. E-portfolio learnings, it's very easy, that document each and every aspect of students learning, recorded. So a child, you can actually track down its performance from the point where he has started and from the point he is moving on to. The process is where you have to plan. When you talk about the plan, you talk about the objective, the content, the context, and the assessment techniques. You have to plan what are you actually aiming at. Then you have to start collecting the students' evidences against that work which you had been making him to do that. Once we have collected it, you have to assess, and then you have to give a very adaptive, constructive feedback, and then you have to connect it to the different media that are readily available for you. You can store them, and you can connect them, and you can share it with the students, and then now this is the process. This is the student's chance to reflect on the work which he has done. So this will help them to a self-directive mode where they can learn, where they can work, then they can reflect, and then they can share, and then they can plan to how to go ahead. It's a cyclic process that goes on, and it's a spiral, as talked about the zonal proximity development of a child, and it goes on, and it goes on, it never ends. E-portfolio, as we have discussed, the collection of evidence that learning has taken place, collection of word learners themselves judged to be most meaningful representation of their learning in a subject, both a learning as well as assessment tool. Yes, it can be as a learning tool, and you can use it as an assessment tool. Developmental growth of a learner over a period of time can be tracked, also useful to prospective employers, and it as discussed, it employs opportunity for the self-reflection. E-portfolio tools, we can talk about so many. There are Google Docs, there are YouTube, which you can store the students' video, MS Office, which you can store students' documents, Facebook, and how can you make the child to have a self-reflection process? With the help of the rubrics. You can say that rubrics or the rating scales or the scoring guide that consist of specific predefined performance criteria used in assessing student performance. There are two types of rubrics: holistic, that covers the whole aspect of a student's learning process, and analytic that actually targets one area where you have actually set for him to work on. So we have got so many useful online tools such as Ruby Stars, and you can use them. It's readily available for you, and it's very easy. This is the Ruby Star, and you can see down there are oral projects, multimedia, math, all strands are readily available for you. You just have to work on it, think about it, and they are there to help them. And now which another tool that I am using in my classroom is Lineot. It's so interesting activity in which students use the sticky notes. Students love to write on the sticky notes. It spreads the sticky notes on the canvas for everyone to see. These sticky notes, you can just generate a discussion in the middle of somewhere, and students can answer you on these sticky notes, and these sticky notes can be edited, they can be deleted, they can be rotated, they can be pinned, and it's a very engaging activity, and it allows everyone to assess and review each other's work, and then you can get the understanding of the student in just 10 to 15 minutes. This is the example of a Lineot which I have taken up, and this is about a respiratory system. Teacher has generated a discussion, and you can see the responses about that, and the way the children have given the progress. They can review each other progress, they can have peer assessment, they can have self-assessment. So you will love to do that, and it's very easy. And then we can have a Padlet, and Padlet is a great place for gathering ideas, sharing them and modifying them later. It's like a living, breathing a web page. Students can add links, YouTube videos, files, and images to a Padlet wall. So you will love, you can see the example of a Padlet wall. The teacher has given a discussion about the book brag, and the way children have given the responses, and they can see each other's work, and this will help a very constructive environment. Now, if you talk about a peer deck, a complete package, just enjoy. Hopefully, if you're going to explore the peer deck, you're going to enjoy it, because I am enjoying it up to the fullest, and it's giving an opportunity for me. And in the end, I must thank you for watching me. Just last tip before I end up, that there should be a balanced approach between the online assessment and the traditional mode of assessment for the betterment of our students. And don't forget to leave your comments. It will help me to self-reflect and then help my practices. Bye bye. See you inshallah next time. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you so much, Nazish, for such a fruitful session. We appreciate your time and effort that you input to develop this rich content for our audience. If you have comments, questions, and or suggestions, please feel free to write us on eteacher@evolution.com.pk. If you are one of the alumni of the eTeacher program and would like to present for this eTeacher Pakistan webinar series, please write us with the title of your presentation on the same email address. Until then, we wish you happy teaching and happy learning.